In a magical world where some children are born with special powers, a 7-year-old girl named Nory looks out her bedroom window and spots a cat in the garden. Whiskers begin growing on her face, and her body shifts into a form like the cat, and then wings push out of her back. Her father walks in and sees it all, and it becomes clear that Nory's power is unlike anything normal. 6 years later, Nory is heading to Sage Academy with her best friend Reyna. Reyna can control fire, but lacks confidence in herself, and Nory is always the one pushing her to believe in her abilities. Nory's own power is unstable whenever she tries to shift into an animal. She mixes 2 or 3 animals together into a hybrid she cannot control. At the bus stop, a man steps out from behind a tree and tells the children he is there to take them to Sage Academy. The children say goodbye to their parents and follow him into the forest, where they find a portal. One by one, they jump through and arrive at the school. Their phones stop working the moment they land. Principal Linda greets them and explains they will be divided into 5 groups based on their abilities: those who talk to animals, those who move objects, those who control fire, those who fly, and those who can transform into animals. Before classes begin, every child is tested. In the fire test, a boy named Philip lights the candle easily and passes. A boy named Elliot only manages to produce smoke and fails. Then, Reyna steps up and lights the candle with just her little finger, and the professors take notice. In the animal communication test, only children who can fully understand a dog's responses pass. In the object test, a girl named Pepper tries to pull a flower pot toward herself, but pushes it so hard it crashes into the wall, and she fails. In the flying test, a boy named Andre removes his heavy bag and shoots straight into the ceiling and cannot come down, so the professors use a ladder to retrieve him. Then, it is Nory's group's turn. Each child must look at a cat and hold its exact form for 6 seconds. Nory uses her power, and a cat form begins to take shape, but within seconds, wings grow from her back, and the professors stare in shock. She cannot control it, and the transformation spirals into something no one recognizes. After the tests, each child receives a card telling them which group they are in. Reyna opens hers and sees she is placed in the Flares group and lights up with excitement. Nory opens hers and finds only the letters UDM. She has no idea what it means. Linda tells the other children to go to the cafeteria for their uniforms, but Nory is directed down a separate path marked with the UDM sign. Nory follows the path into the forest and finds a hidden headquarters. A man named Bud welcomes her and takes her into an underground classroom where a handful of other children sit, the same ones who failed their tests. Bud tells her these children are not trained in magic but taught like normal students. Nory gets angry and demands to know why they cannot learn magic like everyone else. Linda arrives and explains that UDM stands for upside down magic, meaning children whose powers are broken and have no real use. She says these children will never control their abilities, so it is better for them to stay separate, slowly forget their powers, and live ordinary lives. Linda then brings up an old incident. Years ago, a boy named Resin Roberts fell under the influence of shadow magic, a dark force used only to cause harm. The situation became so dangerous that professors and students had to trap him inside a special book. Shadow magic cannot act on its own and needs a human body to survive, and it mainly targets UDM children. That is why they are kept apart and banned from using magic, so they slowly forget and never become a threat. Classes begin for the rest of the school, and Reyna learns that in a few weeks, Sage Academy will hold an event called Founders Day. 5 students, 2 from each group, will compete, and the winner from each group gets to perform on stage in front of the entire school. In her first Flares class, Professor Argon tells Reyna to turn corn kernels into popcorn using her power. Reyna feels nervous but starts well, and then Philip mocks her from across the room. She loses focus and the popcorn burns. Argon scolds her and Reyna feels crushed. Outside the classroom window, a girl named Chandra watches everything with a smile. The next morning, Bud takes his UDM students to the garden and tells them he has a surprise. He opens a shed and Nory sees brooms and assumes they are going to learn to fly. She sits on one, tries to lift off, and falls straight to the ground. The brooms are ordinary and meant for sweeping the garden. Nory wanders with her broom toward an area where another class is running. She watches a professor teach students how to hold a cat's form and learns that one student will get to display their power on Founders Day. Nory decides she will practice and earn that chance. She studies the cat carefully and memorizes every detail, then tries to shift into it alone. She loses control again and turns into a hybrid. The professor spots her and calls Bud immediately, warning him to handle it before the principal finds out. At lunch, Nory tells her new friends that she has studied the cat and just needs to practice controlling the shift. Reyna spots Nory and moves to greet her, but Professor Argon stops her because the school rules prohibit children from different groups from mixing freely. In the next Flares class, Philip turns kernels into perfect popcorn, and Argon selects him as the top student. In the corridor afterward, Chandra approaches Reyna and praises her. Before leaving, she tells Reyna that if she wants to strengthen her powers, she can help. Reyna wants badly to be the best, so she goes to the library late at night to study. A black book falls off a shelf on its own. She picks it up and realizes it is a book of shadow magic. The moment she opens it, every light in the library goes out. She understands immediately that she has made a mistake and puts the book back. But as she walks away, she realizes the book is following her. In her dormitory, Nory practices shifting into a cat with her new friends. No matter how many times she tries, she holds the form for only 3 seconds before it breaks into a hybrid. The next morning, Reina sees Nory laughing with her new friends through the window and feels left behind. Then the shadow magic book opens on its own on her desk, and its pages flip until they stop at a chapter about strengthening hidden powers. Reina begins reading, and dark smoke forms around her and flows straight into her body. A few hours later, all new students gather in a hall for the group competition. Philip and Reina stand across from each other for the flares round. Philip is confident he will win easily. Reina steps up and turns the kernels into perfect popcorn before the time runs out. Argon tastes it and is overjoyed, and Reina is chosen to perform at Founders Day. Nory pushes into the hall and tells the professor she has been practicing for days. She asks for one last chance and transforms in front of everyone. The professor starts the timer, and at 4 seconds, wings burst from her back again. She loses control and keeps snapping between hybrids and cannot stop. She gets scared, and Reina moves to calm her down, but the shadow magic has made Reina's power far more volatile. Reina loses control too, and a fireball forms and shoots toward Nory. At the last second, Nory snaps back to her human form and the fire misses. Reina apologizes, and Bud helps Nory steady herself. Linda watches all of it and gives Bud a strict warning that if he cannot manage his students, he will lose his position. Nory and the UDM group return to their headquarters feeling hopeless and convinced their magic is beyond fixing. Bud has heard enough. He tells them he is not willing to watch their dreams break and takes them into the forest. He begins to sing, and animals come from every direction and gather around him. Everyone realizes Bud is a fuzzy type UDM too. Instead of speaking to animals, he communicates through song. He has been secretly practicing all along, so he would not forget his ability. He promises to train all of them to understand and use their powers their own way. On the way back, Nory keeps thinking about what happened with Reina and decides something is wrong. She goes to find her. When Reina reaches her room, Chandra is already standing there holding the shadow magic book and telling Reina that the book is the reason her powers got so strong today. Reina realizes the book put Nory in danger and throws Chandra out of the room. The book reappears inside on its own. Reina opens the door in frustration and finds Nory standing right there. She hugs her tightly, but is afraid Nory will find out the truth, so she cuts the visit short and sends her away. The next morning, Bud starts training. He ties a pipe around Andre's waist and tells him to hover at a steady height. Andre removes his badge, shoots into the air, and slowly tries to stabilize himself. As the sessions continue, each child stops trying to imitate perfect magic and starts building something of their own. Elliot shapes the smoke from his hands into forms. Pepper learns to push objects with control and precision. Nory stops limiting herself to one animal and begins combining 3 and 4 animals together, then starts learning to hold the hybrid steady. Their confidence grows, and for the first time they believe in what they can do. Reina watches from a distance, and Chandra appears beside her again. Reina tells her to leave, but Chandra explains it is already too late. Using the book created a connection between them that cannot be undone. The other kids ask Reina who she is talking to, and it comes out that only Reina can see Chandra. Reina panics and runs to her room, but Chandra follows. Chandra tells her that her power is greater than anyone else at the school, and she just needs to stop being afraid. Reina starts listening and decides to stop holding back and accept the dark power inside her. Nory arrives at that moment and feels immediately that something is wrong. She understands now that shadow magic is not limited to UDM children, it can take hold of anyone. Reina's voice shifts into something cold, and she tells Nory that the school will be destroyed soon and that Nory should leave while she still can. Nory runs to Bud and tells him everything. The group wants to go to the principal, but Bud stops them. He says Linda will not believe them and asks everyone to wait because he is sure the attack will come on Founders Day. The next morning, all students and professors gather in the garden. Linda calls Reina onto the stage to perform. Reina greets the crowd by forming letters in the air with fire, and then the atmosphere shifts. A fireball grows in her hand and its shadow spills across the whole garden. A voice comes from inside her saying it has returned after many years. The professors recognize it. It is the same shadow magic that possessed a student long ago. Argon and her students attack it with fire, but it has no effect. Animals are brought in, but they run from it in fear. Other students try their powers one after another, but nothing works. The UDM group steps forward. Pepper pushes the creature back. Elliot fills the air with smoke so it loses visibility. Andre flies above it and pulls its attention. Nory transforms into a hybrid and stands directly in front of it. Linda orders everyone to attack together, but Nory stops them all because she knows Reina is still inside that creature. Nory faces it alone. The creature is about to strike when an explosion erupts from inside it, and it is destroyed. Reina has fought the dark force from within and broken free on her own. Nory runs to her and holds her. The UDM students save the school and prove that their powers matter. The UDM program is shut down and all students learn magic together from that point on. Bud is made a full professor and teaches magic in ways no one has tried before.